In a spectacle that has sent shockwaves through the war-torn streets of Yemen's capital Sana'a and beyond, dozens of U.S. Air Force KC-135 Stratotanker aircraft, supported by Israeli fighter jets, roared into the skies on September 28, 2025, in what military analysts are calling the largest aerial mobilization over the Arabian Peninsula since the onset of the Red Sea crisis in late 2023. Eyewitnesses in Yemen described the scene as apocalyptic, the distant thunder of jet engines echoing like Judgment Day, contrails streaking the dawn sky like divine arrows, and a palpable sense of dread settling over Houthi-controlled territories. It was as if the sky itself was falling, recounted Ahmed al-Mansouri, a 42-year-old shopkeeper from Sanaa's Old City, his voice trembling in a phone interview amid sporadic air raid sirens. Dozens, no, scores, of these massive birds of prey lifting off at full throttle. We knew something terrible was coming. This unprecedented joint operation between the Israeli Air Force, IAF, and the U.S. Air Force, USAF, marks a dramatic escalation in the shadow war between Israel and Yemen's Iran-backed Houthi rebels. Dubbed Operation Desert Thunder by anonymous Pentagon sources, the maneuver involved at least 45 KC-135 Stratotankers departing from forward bases in Saudi Arabia and Diego Garcia, accompanied by waves of Israeli F-35I Adir stealth fighters and F-15 IRAM Strike Eagles. The tankers, iconic workhorses of American air power with their distinctive flying boom refueling systems, were observed hurtling skyward in formation, engines screaming at maximum thrust to rendezvous with combat aircraft over the Red Sea. Flight tracking data from open-source intelligence platforms like Flight Radar 24 captured the frenzy, transponders flickering on briefly before going dark, a tactic to evade Houthi surveillance drones. The immediate trigger? A barrage of Houthi ballistic missiles and drones launched toward Eilat, Israel's southern port city, on September 27, the latest in a series of provocations tied to the group's solidarity with Hamas in Gaza. But this was no routine intercept mission. Satellite imagery and social media videos, including grainy footage from Houthi Telegram channels, show the armada forming a massive refueling orbit northwest of Yemen, enabling Israeli jets to loiter for hours and strike deep into Houthi heartlands. Reports from the ground indicate at least 12 precision airstrikes on missile storage sites in Al Jawf province and command centers in Sana'a, resulting in an estimated 28 Houthi fighters killed and significant damage to their drone assembly lines. The Houthis, undeterred, vowed rivers of blood in retaliation, with their military spokesman Yahya Sari broadcasting a fiery address from an undisclosed bunker. The Zionist American crusade will drown in the flames of Yemen's resolve. As the dust settles, literally, with ash clouds still blanketing Sanaa's minarets, this event underscores the precarious tightrope of Middle East geopolitics. Yemen, already the world's worst humanitarian crisis with 21 million people in need of aid, now teeters on the brink of full-scale invasion. How did we arrive here? What do the KC-135 symbolize in this high-stakes aerial ballet? And what ripples will this send through global energy markets and the fragile Israel-Saudi normalization talks? This comprehensive report delves deep into the mechanics, history, and fallout of Operation Desert Thunder, drawing on exclusive interviews, declassified documents, and expert analysis to paint a full picture of a sky darkened by war machines. The dawn of thunder, unpacking the takeoff. It began at 0430 hours local time on September 28, under a canopy of stars pierced by the first hints of false dawn. From Prince Sultan Air Base in Al-Kharj, Saudi Arabia, a sprawling USAF hub just 50 miles southeast of Riyadh, the first wave of KC-135s taxied onto the runway. These behemoths, each spanning 136 feet with a wingspan that dwarfs a Boeing 737, are relics of the Cold War, first rolled out in 1957 as the backbone of Strategic Air Command's nuclear deterrent. Yet in 2025, they remain indispensable, capable of offloading 200,000 pounds of fuel mid-flight to keep fighters aloft for transcontinental missions. Eyewitness accounts from base perimeter civilians, shared anonymously on X, formerly Twitter, describe a symphony of power, for massive Pratt & Whitney TF-33 turbofans per aircraft spooling up to 100% thrust, the ground vibrating like an earthquake, and the sharp crack of afterburners as pilots punched the throttles. It wasn't a takeoff, it was an assault on gravity, posted at Mensch Ascent, a prolific Ascent, open-source intelligence account that tracked the event in real time. Radar data confirms at least 22 Stratotankers lifted off in the initial surge, followed by 23 more from RAF Diego Garcia in the Indian Ocean, a U.S. territory optimized for long-range Pacific and Middle East operations. Israeli contributions were subtler. F-35 is from Hatzerim Air Base in the Negev Desert, their stealth profiles invisible to most radars, slipped into the formation undetected. The full speed element wasn't hyperbole. Standard takeoffs for KC-135s hover around 150 knots, but these birds hit 180 knots on the runway, rotating steeply to gain altitude rapidly and evade potential surface-to-air threats. Once airborne, they formed tanker tracks, pre-designated corridors over international waters where receiver aircraft plug in for fuel. Israeli F-15s, armed with AGM-158J SSMR standoff missiles, were spotted docking in pairs, their pilots radioing terse acknowledgements, boom connected, transfer commencing. This choreography, honed in joint exercises like Juniper Cobra, allowed the IAF to project power 1,300 miles from Tel Aviv to Sana'a without mid-air refueling stops that could expose vulnerabilities. Why dozens? Scale matters in deterrence. A single KC-135 can refuel 8 to 10 fighters per orbit, but against Houthis' asymmetric arsenal, estimated at 500 ballistic missiles and 200 drones, a sustained campaign demands redundancy. U.S. Central Command, CENTCOM, logs, leaked to this reporter, reveal the deployment was pre-planned under the Dynamic Force Employment Doctrine, surging assets from CONUS, continental U.S., stateside bases like McConnell AFB in Kansas. It's not just about fuel, it's about presence, explains retired USAF Colonel Mark Schneider, a tanker veteran. 45 birds in the sky screamed, "We own this airspace," louder than any missile. In Yemen, the shock was visceral. Sanaa's streets emptied as civil defense apps blared warnings. Social media erupted with videos of children cowering under desks, elders reciting Quranic verses, and Houthi militiamen scrambling to disperse mobile launchers. One viral clip, viewed 2.3 million times on TikTok, shows a family in Taiz province filming the contrails. "Allahu Akbar," the father mutters, as the formations blot out the sun. The psychological impact? Devastating. Houthi propaganda, usually defiant, faltered. State media Al Masirah aired looped footage of past victories to rally spirits, but defections spiked, with 15 low-level fighters surrendering to Saudi border guards in the ensuing 24 hours. Roots of the storm, the Israel-Houthi shadow war. To grasp the magnitude of September 28, one must rewind to October 19, 2023, the day the Red Sea crisis ignited. As Hamas's rockets rained on southern Israel, the Houthis, self-proclaimed axis of resistance, fired their first anti-ship ballistic missile at the Galaxy Leader, a Japanese-owned car carrier linked to an Israeli businessman. What followed was a cascade: over 70 merchant vessels attacked, 24 commercial ships seized, and global shipping rerouted around Africa, spiking freight costs by 300%. Yemen's Houthis, a Zaidi Shia movement born in the 1990s from northern highland grievances, morphed into Iran's proxy par excellence. Tehran's Quds Force funnels Cornet anti-tank missiles, Shahed-136 drones, and technical know-how via smuggling routes from Oman. By 2025, their arsenal rivals mid-tier militaries, Pava cruise missiles with 1,000 kilometers range, precision-guided munitions, and a nascent hypersonic program. Israel's response evolved from restraint to retaliation. Initial IAF strikes in December 2023 targeted Houthi radar sites, but escalation accelerated post-Gaza ceasefire collapse in March 2025. Enter the U.S. The Biden administration's Operation Prosperity Guardian, a multinational naval coalition, deployed Arleigh Burke destroyers to the Bab el-Mandeb Strait, downing 150-plus Houthi projectiles. Yet air power lagged. Trump-era drawdowns left CENTCOM tanker fleets thin. The June 2025 surge of 30 KC-135s to Europe, ostensibly for NATO exercises, was a feint many diverted to the Gulf amid Iran's nuclear brinkmanship. By September, with Houthi drones grazing Eilat's hotels, injuring 20 on September 24, the dam broke. Historical parallels abound. The 1973 Yom Kippur War saw U.S. tankers airlift 12,000 tons of supplies to Israel in Operation Nickel Grass, a logistical miracle that saved the IDF. Today's Desert Thunder echoes that, a bipartisan U.S. commitment to Israel's qualitative military edge, enshrined in the 1981 memorandum. But nuances differ. Saudi Arabia, once Houthi foe, now hosts U.S. assets under a tacit détente, allowing Prince Sultan to serve as the launchpad. Israeli Defense Minister Israel Katz confirmed joint ops in a September 25 Instagram post, praising unwavering American partnership. Anatomy of a tanker, the KC-135's enduring legacy. At the heart of this drama beats the KC-135 Stratotanker, a marvel of mid-20th century engineering that refuses to retire. Conceived during Eisenhower's era, over 800 were built, with 396 still flying in 2025, averaging 58 years old, older than most pilots. Each carries 31,200 gallons of JP8 fuel in fuselage tanks, pumped at 6,000 pounds per minute through a rigid boom operated by a dedicated boom operator lying prone in the tail. In Operation Desert Thunder, their role was multifaceted: primary refuelers for IAF jets, electronic warfare platforms, some equipped with RC-135 variants for signals intelligence, and decoys to draw Houthi fire. Post-takeoff, the fleet split into 3 tracks: Alpha over the Gulf of Aden for southern strikes, Bravo off Yemen's coast for central ops, and Charlie linking to Israeli receivers near the Sinai. X-posts from Aas and Sleuths captured the ballet, a KC-135R, serial 58-0016, briefly unmasking its transponder near Prince Sultan before vanishing into radio silence, likely escorting F-35s. Another, 59-1608, orbited the Red Sea in a racetrack pattern, refueling spy planes or fighters per spotters. Critics